Welcome to a video on LOPs. LOPs is a new operator family that I've made for TouchDesigner that brings LLMs into TouchDesigner as a creative tool set. Today I'm going to walk you through the whole process of installation and setup, from dragging the talks in to getting several of the operators working. Specifically going to be covering some common issues people have already run into since I released them a couple days ago. Most things are working great, but there are a few quirky things worth knowing about up front. So let's dive in. You're going to want to get the talks from Patreon. And one of the first things you'll notice is when you drag it into your project might freeze for a moment, and then the talks will appear and disappear. Don't worry, you don't have to drag it in again. It's just putting itself at the root of your project. And then you will see, if you hit tab, that in the op create menu, you have a new LOP family. And from here, you can place different LOPs and also open up these two controls at the top, ChatTD and Python Manager. If we just go to that, you can see the Python base folder is empty, and that is also empty here. So this LOPs install path and the Python base folder will match in a moment. The first time that you drag it into a project, you're going to want to hit this install modify LOPs. It's going to say, with this very long message that will probably be shortened in the next version, but no LOP installation detected. And you're going to want to hit setup install. It's going to open a folder. And this just went to my desktop, which seems fine. So let's go LOPs test install. Probably just a good idea to stick to no spaces in this folder. And then I have that folder selected. I'm going to hit select folder. And then TouchDesigner is actually going to freeze for a second. So it's going to open this command window or terminal window if you're on Mac, and that's going to create the virtual environment. And then this is where we hit kind of maybe confusing, I would say, bug in my code that hopefully will be fixed and should be fixed in the next version. But it just disappeared, and this path was not set. So you might hit this. It says that LOPs installation is found, and then I will hit check install requirement. This now opens another window and actually starts installing the light LLM package, the first thing that we install for LOPs. And the previous step created the virtual environment. Those should be folded together into the same click. And you'll see that the TouchDesigner project completely freezes while these installations are happening. But once it finishes, that should go away, and your project should start cooking again. All right, so it said attempted to install, and you'll see that folder that I selected. Okay. Oh, it's actually freezing. So that's a kind of a good sign. We can see the LOPs install path is now set there. And if we go to the ChatTD stuff, we have that also set correctly. There have been a couple people that have noticed during this install process that maybe by chance it actually, for some reason, has this path in both locations. And then that might cause issues when it installs, because it actually creates another virtual environment inside that. I will have this fixed, but if you notice anything weird with like the light LLM never installing and then the agent not working, check the install path here and the Python base folder here, which these should set each other to each other, but you want that to be definitely just this LOP install folder. You can go even to the Python manager if you want and print the VNV report. And this will also pause your project. Alt-T to open the text port, and we can see that we have no CUDA available yet, Python 3.11.9, the base folder that we set, and the Python site packages folder, and all of the installed pip packages. Now we're ready to do things such as place an agent down and add message and ask it a question or say yo, and we can call the agent and it should respond with an error message that says you don't have an API key. Which leads me to the next step. You'll see down here this get API key. That is going to dynamically open a browser based on the selected API server that you have here. There are 3 API services, or 4 API services that are cloud-based, OpenRouter, OpenAI, Grok, and Gemini, and then Ollama and LM Studio are local. OpenRouter has access to a ton of models, so this also might be a good one to test. There are a couple free models you can check out, and you can also look on their site. If I hit get API key here, go to the OpenRouter, create API key, test td install, and then create. Then I'm going to copy this, and then in chat-td, let's go to OpenRouter, make sure that's selected, and then I'm going to paste my API key there, and it's going to say API key stored. And then by default, when you drop the model, it's going to copy the selected server and model ID from what you have in chat-td when the agent is actually placed. But you can, up here, just use the model from chat-td. So if we went and searched maybe free to try to get, fun little bug, model search might not work on the chat-td, but it does work on the agent. So if we switch to OpenRouter and search for free, we can check out a bunch of free models, and note that you'll definitely be rate limited with these, but just for demonstration, let's pick a random one, Quen, sure, and we'll get a response from the model. I'm also going to cover a couple of the known bugs that have been reported to me and how you can fix them right now in order to get a few of the operators working. With the MCP server, when you first drop it in and you're on a fresh installation like I am, you're going to want to go to this install debug section, and if you hit check dependencies, it's going to say missing dependencies, so you're going to want to install this. But the issue that some people and most people are going to be hitting is that this is installing the most up-to-date version of fastmcp and the MCP library, which is not ideal because there are some breaking changes in MCP, and that on Windows, it needs the PyWin32 library, which isn't working in TouchDesigner's Python. So for now, we're going to install versions that are specifically known to work, but I'm just running through the install process to show the error that you might run into. So if you hit check dependencies, you're going to still see missing dependencies. And if it actually check dependencies, missing dependencies, fastmcp server. And if you hit start server, it's going to say fastmcp server not installed. Just so you are aware, most LOPs have an output that is a log, and that's easier to read than dragging out the status. But the status is also dynamically linked to the last log message. To fix the MCP server, and I believe the client will also have the same issue, it's not able to import MCP. And if I hit start server, install dependencies, it's going to go on this circular loop. So this is not finding the fastmcp stuff. But if we go to the Python manager, this is where you can install some stuff manually. You can see the current packages. If you want to update that number, hit list packages. This doesn't always update, but you can hit the open venv button, and then that will open a command window, and you're going to want to basically pip uninstall fastmcp, and then the yes isn't, that basically just allows you to not type in y manually. And then so we uninstalled that, and we're going to install this specific version. So pip install fastmcp == 2.8.0. And we're going to want to also do that to MCP. So I'm adding the -y, and it's not going to ask me to hit yes. And pip install MCP 1.9.4. And this is before the changes that we need, the WinPy32 stuff. And now that's all good, you can click out of that or just close it out. And then if we double click this, we got an error. And this is pretty much where you can find yourself spending minutes or longer debugging this and just being confused by why the heck this error is here, even though you just put in the pip commands like Lyle instructed in the tutorial. But actually what you need to do is just close your TouchDesigner project and reopen it, and that should fix it. And when I reopen it, oh, look at that. The dependencies are disabled, which likely means if I hit start server, the MCP server is working and running on 18.777. So sweet. Also, just so you know, this MCP server is not very functional, but it is more showing you the outline of what you will need. You'll need this line and a name for the MCP server, and then you want to look up fastmcp, which is a Python library, and basically my MCP server setup allows you to expose any TouchDesigner code as a fastmcp MCP server, and you use the decorator of mcp.tool to define the tools, and then also it's a good thing to note that you want nice descriptive comments here for the model, because fastmcp actually uses this and gives this to the model for what the function does. And yeah, so that's the MCP stuff, the issue with that. There is also an issue with Gemini Live. One thing to note, I'm going to probably be moving some of these installation pop-ups so that they don't pop up like literally when you place the operator. It's a bit annoying in my opinion. I'd rather the installation pop up when you try to use the operator, or maybe right after you placed it or something. Maybe let me know about that. So with the Gemini stuff, you'll want to have your Gemini Live API key set here. And then a very small note is, depending on what tools you hook it up with, if you do configure some complex MCP server stuff and load that into the client, this wouldn't be this MCP server. Both of these are tools that you can drag onto the agent or Gemini Live, but I'll cover that later. But if you have a pretty complicated MCP server setup, which I ran into this and I fixed in the Gemini Live, but it won't be until the next version that I put out. Gemini Live might fail with a 1007 error message, and basically your conversation status will go on, but the live connection won't go on. But just know that that'll be fixed. Then there's also an issue with the RAG indexer. Yeah, I mean, this is just saying that it doesn't have the llama-index, which if I disable and enable that, it's going to say to install this. But currently I'm missing a pip installation for llama-index that will allow the local embeddings using Ollama to work. In the Python manager, open via env, and then I will have all of these in the description, but you're going to want to pip install llama-index-embeddings-ollama. Now that we're back in here, just hit this X again, and then you should be able to get the embeddings running. One way is crawl for AI, which again, this is going to do a slightly annoying pop-up. Let me place this down. If we select this crawl for AI URL and put it into the target URL, we're going to hit start crawl, but we're going to hit crawl for AI is not installed. Maybe that will fix that. Then start crawl, it's going to say launching crawl, woo, woo, woo. Starting crawl recursive, crawling one URL, crawling 69 URLs. Okay, so this actually worked. Sometimes it doesn't work, and you might get an error, and it says like the browsers are not installed. You're going to want to hit install update playwright browsers. This looks like it got so far just one. Crawled the whole site, and with one more depth, sure. Crawl already in progress. Stop the crawl. Ooh, we just got. All right, actually, there we just got 70 docs. I don't know why it didn't. I wanted it to be quicker, but so the first table for all of the source operators are going to be these like source index tables, which have the docs, the contents, metadata, source path. You don't need to worry about this too much. And you'll also notice if I zoom in, my frame rate's going to die. So you're going to want to keep these big tables not visible, but plug that into the RAG indexer, and now we've got data to create a RAG index over, and this will be all the documentation for LOPs. And then in this, I can hit create index, and if I open my text port, we're going to get a lot of nonsense in the crawl for AI. These are things that I am hopefully going to clean soon, but you'll see the parsing nodes, which this is kind of like breaking this into different chunks with a certain chunk overlap. And now we're actually generating the embeddings using Ollama, using this nomic embed text model. See, we have 456 chunks. And then now we'll go back, just close out of here. And then in the RAG indexer, we have all of the different documents that have been in the RAG itself broken into that large bit of chunks. Now in RAG retriever, it automatically is going to select RAG index 1. So if these are the only two that you've placed, this should dynamically be there. And then if I query the index, error. Ooh, search mode is last user, so I don't have a conversation table plugged in, but I can just change that to custom. And let's say agent operator tool usage. That's just a little query, and then we're going to hit query index, and it's going to say searching index, and then that's going to pop in. So we have a score for the similarity of the different chunks to this query phrase, and then this is going to return 10 chunks and output it in a chat table format, which is a little bit strange, but it's actually a system prompt saying, here's the relevant context for answering the user's question, and then it provides all of this text just as a big one. With this, you could plug it into an agent and maybe add a add message here. What does the agent, or how does agent use tools? And then this, let's see, we're going to ask Gemini Flash, the user in the system, which system is kind of weird. Probably add a option for that, but we can use redefine roles and go from set system to assistant. And then, there's a bug. No. That's annoying. Here's the order of that. Let's plug in first. Maybe that'll fix it. Okay, that's annoying. But in theory, well, let's just see if the system works. Call the agent, and oh, well, of course, I never actually put in an API key, so. Let's find the same model on OpenRouter, Gemini Flash 1.5, and call the agent. So get tools are operators that have a get tool method. Sick. This is actually super, super nice. And let's turn off this icon. Agent itself decides which tool, if any, tool execution. So great. That's working, the RAG retriever. Another thing that we could do to bring it all together, let's add a different agent. It's just auto linking, but in this, let's ask the same thing. And then in the agent, we're actually going to use the RAG retriever as a tool. So now let's see if I put my Gemini API key, so this should work. So let's see if this calls the tool. Invalid function declarations. Maybe the RAG retriever isn't going to work quite perfectly. Let's see, does it work with OpenRouter? It's a bit strange with the Gemini service. I'll look into that. Designed to use tools by taking your agent. Yeah. So in the agent system message, which you can hit edit system message or assign just any dat there, instead of you are a helpful assistant, you will always use the RAG tool to get information to answer the user's questions. And now set that and call agent, and it's actually going to use the RAG retriever as a tool, and it's going to do the same thing that we did here, but it's doing it. And now we see that this agent is responding with the correct information. So to go back and summarize this little setup, we scraped my documentation, put put it into an index, set up a retriever, and use that as a tool for an agent in order to learn a little bit more about LOPs. But yeah, so that covers the main installation stuff and the common fixes you might need. All the pip commands that I mentioned earlier are in the description below. Definitely hit me up on Discord or Patreon if you run into any other bugs, or if you have questions, or if you have any ideas. I really just want your feedback. I'm also curious to hear your ideas for more tutorials, start to finish. I have a couple in mind and that I'm working on, as well as maybe new LOPs that you would want to fit into this ecosystem. I'm excited to keep building this out and can't wait to see what you all create with it. But yeah, that's it for now, and enjoy the LOPs.